What up? This is Yinka Diz,
What up? It's Panama.
and you're listening to the 80s Babies podcast. And today we're doing like a quick strike episode just to kind of weigh in, I guess, on the Cardi B record. Here, actually, let me get the factoids about it. So the record is Imaginary Playerz, and it was released August 15th, 2025 on Atlantic Records. It is scheduled to be the second single from her upcoming album, Am I the Drama? And that is supposed to be dropping on September 9th. Panama. Well, we'll kick to you. We'll kind of let's sandwich feedback this. We'll kind of talk, any praise or positive thoughts that we have about the record. We'll kick to kind of our, critical feedback, and then we can have a general discussion about the record. So, highlights?
Yeah, so funny that you mentioned that this was the second single because I actually forgot that there was a prior single, which was the song Outside, which similarly samples kind of an old school maybe it's going to be an album that harkens back to the heyday of the 90s or whatever, because Outside pulls from the famous New Orleans bounce, the bounce rhythm, so to speak, from the drag rap, which is actually a record from the Bronx that came from New York, if I'm not mistaken. It's from the Bronx. But anyway, Imaginary Playerz. So let's start. Like you said, highlights. I mean, it takes its cues from a song that I think we were all remembering a little bit more favorably than perhaps we ever have in time. So I love the sample.
Right.
Cardi is Cardi. She's 9 times out of 10, just her being there is going to be the best part of the thing.
Okay, that's fair.
I enjoy her a lot just as a performer typically.
Yeah.
And look, it's been a while since we got a Cardi record, so a highlight is the fact that it exists. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that, like, we've been short on Cardi for some time. Fair. I would like to go to the Roots picnic and see Cardi B instead of Sexy Red. So if I can get that, then I think it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, that's what's up.
What about you, man?
I'll add mine. I think that the bars are good, right? Like, I'm gonna distinguish what was written from how it was performed. So but the bars that were written down were fire. I mean, I've got like specific quotables here. Glory hole bitches don't know who they fucking with is insane. It's insane that somebody said that on wax. And on a previous episode of this podcast, either with you or Outlaw, I mentioned how I think I was talking about the context of the later part of MC Ren's career. And I was talking about how a lot of his verses and maybe songs didn't connect so much because he kind of relied on shock value, it seemed, in a way that didn't connect or resonate in the time frame. We're talking like early 2000s. He was putting out some music with Corrupt and some of these other cats. And in 1988 or 89, if you say fuck the police, people are like, oh shit, he said fuck the police. In 2005, if you say fuck the police, niggas are going to be like, yeah, fuck them. You know what I'm saying? So I have not heard many one-liners that are shock value one-liners that I was actually shocked by, but also thought were clever. That is, to me, a shock bar that I was impressed by.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you have thoughts there before.
Listen, it's the line that stands out.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
It's crazy that someone would say that. And whoever thought of it, kudos to you. Your brain is crazy. I don't want to see what your tabs look like on your browser.
It was an entertaining line. You don't really hear too many good glory hole bars.
I don't think I've ever heard a glory hole bar. I'm gonna be honest.
I probably don't listen to enough rappers that would use that as a regular phrase, but at least not at this point in my life. But yes, I do think they stuck the landing on that particular line. Yes.
So that's the standout bar to me. There's a few other ones I thought were dope. Your booking fees, my makeup and hair money was dope to me. The whole like and do, even though it's not a bar, I feel like it captures the spirit of now in terms of like Cardi's fan base, the kind of bird type of individual. And I think that she like just like it's just so Cardi B, just and do. It's like, okay, all right, I hear you. So yeah, and then the last one that I wrote here was my flop and your flop is not the same. If y'all did my numbers, you would pop champagne. I think that bar is really important because there's been a lot of talk about Cardi B being really afraid to come off the ledge and release this second album. She has, it seems, a fear of a sophomore jinx. Her first album was very critically praised and acclaimed. I mean, even by this podcast, right? Like Outlaw and I are not the types of individuals that probably are the core target audience of a Cardi B. So when we heard the album and were impressed by it, we were doubly impressed to the point where we came and did a whole episode about it, right? Because of how impressed we were by the album. So, I think she has been putting these singles out over the course of multiple years, and they haven't really got a ton of traction, or at least the type of traction that you would need at the level of fame and success that she has. Right. And so I think this bar really captures like the spirit of that, which is like, y'all are saying I'm flopping or I'm not ready or whatever, but at the same time, like I'm on a level so much higher than y'all in terms of success that like y'all wish you could have the problems that I have. I liked that bar.
I mean, it's a good bar, I suppose. Based on your breakdown of it, I think is probably a little bit more thoughtful. Like, it has been a while since she's released an album. Yeah. I do appreciate that Cardi B is probably one of the more successful artists that we've seen in the past couple years. So maybe, yes. And I'm just trying to give credence to the bars itself. So yes, her, if most people probably doing her floor would be a success, I suppose. I think that was the case back in 2018, 2019, whenever, what was the name of her first album? Oh my
Invasion of Privacy.
Invasion of Privacy.
It was
whenever
2017 or 2016. It was a while back.
It was a while ago. Now, it's a different time. Yes. Lots of people are flopping, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's a good bar ahead of time. We'll see if that bar stands up once the album drops. Now, I would expect because it's Cardi B that she will do just fine. But you really never know nowadays, right? You just like albums don't really seem to hit the same way. I think we had a conversation about this a long time ago about like albums versus just singles and what matters nowadays. And, we still measure people against albums, even though I'm not really sure.
Yeah, as relevant as it was maybe in our era of hip hop.
Yeah, like an album was a thing that mattered. Like your singles were cool, but the album is what you were judged by.
Yep.
I don't know if that's really the case anymore. Like
completely.
Only a few artists are releasing albums in full bodies that people are paying attention to like that. Like Kendrick releases an album, we're listening to the album and measuring it by old standards, so to speak.
Yeah. He's a rare album artist in this era.
Drake gets some of that, even though I don't know if he releases things as if he's kind of got that old school, I'm putting out a body of work thing, but it really just be a collection of singles.
You're right. A lot of times.
Beyonce, right, is releasing albums at this point specifically, like very intentionally. So, I think interestingly, J. Cole releases albums that are really better for the singles than they are as full bodies of work, in my estimation. Same thing with artists like Wale and, you can, Doechii releases album, what I'm saying?
So
SZA releases an album, what I mean? Like I don't know where Cardi's going to fit in this. It's been a while.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's why all my highlights are a bit maybe backhanded, because I also feel like some of them are low lights here, and we'll talk about that when we get there. The last kind of highlight that's also a low light that I want to paint is the video. I think that the video is a very beautiful, like we're very beautifully done, over the top, artistic. Her looks are great, has made herself kind of a fashion icon in her own right. And, there's a lot of, as a legend would say, beautiful gowns, lots of beautiful gowns in the music video. So that I'll call that a highlight and a low light, which we'll talk about when we get to low lights. So do you want to talk about maybe your more critical feedback of the record?
Yeah, sure. I think it sucks. And I've been trying to get out of my own way, so to speak, and try not to be that guy. Like, I'm not listening. I'm not viewing this from look, I'm a Jay-Z fan. Like, I remember where I was when Imaginary Players came out. Like, I remember how big of a record that was. I also remember what a kind of like people trashed Volume 1.
Volume 1, that's facts.
Because Volume 1 had both amazing records and terrible records on it. Like, the good records are really, really strong records. Like Imaginary Players, like Where I'm From, like, Crack Game, Rap Game. Like, there are records on that album, and then there's Sunshine and Is it I Know What Girls Like? I don't even know the name
I
of
hate
it.
that song so
Oh,
much.
the
Girls, I
You
think it's called.
Belong to the
Yeah.
Sea. Like, there's some trash records on that album.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
you know, I'm not listening to Imaginary Players, Cardi's version, with this sense of reverence for the original album or the song, whatever. I'm listening to it solely for what it sounds like. And it sounds like a first draft in every sense of the word. Like, the lines are being punched in, like she didn't memorize it yet in order to deliver it.
It feels that way for
with
sure.
a flow, because the flow is so off. It's annoying.
Yeah.
The beat itself, the super digital ass drums, like it's almost like here's a reference beat for what we're gonna remake. Even the filtering on like the sample
completely agree.
It's barely there, so it just you know what? So I remember when Drake first came out, right? And like songs like Successful, they have this heavy filter, like, and it sounded good,
the
but the way
effect that they call was what they were calling it.
Yeah. And the mixing was so essential to it that it could make or break the record.
Yeah.
The mixing on this is so bad. The attempt to seamlessly mesh bar for bar, it's like they didn't even try. So for me, and I'm trying, I know this is being overly analytical, but I hear all those things.
Yeah.
And it's not just because I'm a music head. Like, I don't think you could miss them even if you weren't. It just doesn't sound to me. Yeah. It doesn't sound to me like a finished product. Like, I think they needed one more shot at it for her to memorize the lines.
I agree with that.
And spit it in one take.
I think,
the beat needed work.
You know, not to interrupt you, but like,
go ahead.
Think that you and I have recorded music before, right? Like, we've produced music before, like we have some experience there. So like, even when you say on a podcast or you say in a conversation, punching in, some people don't even know what that means, right? So like, the fact that we hear these chops of like takes, it's because we've recorded before. So we know that, you know, in a DAW, you can chop and you can have, you know, I liked how this word sounded, and then I took that part of this take and I took another part of another take. But I feel like the average Cardi fan may not be listening the same way we are, if that makes sense. So I try to step outside of myself as a listener, you know, and observe some of this stuff.
Yeah. Before we get to the Cardi fan, let's talk about them niggas in the studio, because they probably using some KRK rockets, since we're going to get specific, right? So we're going to go ahead and have the music head conversation. We're talking shop, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about punching in, and we think some people might not know what that means. Punching in is when, as you just said, like Big Pun famously had to punch in every line of every verse that he did, because he couldn't spit those verses straight through. He just couldn't do it. Plus the layering of certain bars and things, it's just impossible, right? If you've seen the movie Straight Outta Compton, Eazy-E punched in every line on Boys in the Hood, according to the film and to lore. So it's just, you didn't record the thing straight.
Yeah.
But the reason why I mentioned KRK rockets, because it's effectively an industry standard for people in studio monitors. Most people call them speakers. If you talk in shop, they're monitors, right? So they feed back the imperfections in sound, right? You can hear everything. One of my favorite experiences with some KRKs was when Kanye West's All of the Lights came out.
Okay.
And you can literally hear like all 27 individual voices when you listen to that joint on hot. Like, you can hear Elton John and Rihanna and Cudi and you can hear the Dream, those voices, you can hear them. So the reason why I bring that up.
Can I explain the KRKs real quick before you go on? So for folks that are like, we're nerding out for y'all. Basically, right, these are speakers that you listen to in the studio. And it's a bit counterintuitive, but these speakers they're not making it sound better. They're making it sound the way it sounds.
Yes.
So the speakers that you have at home
actually sounds,
or the headphones that you have at home, add color to the music. They add sheen to the music. They make the music sound wonderful and nice.
They fill up the cone of sound.
Exactly. And but a monitor, a studio monitor, does the opposite of that. It gives you the picture exactly the way the picture is. And so you can use that to where when you mix your music, if you can make it sound good on monitors or car speakers, we have different tests, then you know that it's going to sound good anywhere once those frequencies are colored in. And KRK rockets specifically are known to be the cheapest of the industry standard monitors. So they're very, very good at representing every single sound. If you can make, they're very bass heavy and they kind of lack in some of the other frequencies. And if you can make your stuff sound good on KRK Rockets, your stuff is going to sound great on every speaker. So that's the speaker that he's referring to.
When you see people, if you ever watch videos of folks in studios and you see this
yellow
speaker
joints
laid over on the side with some yellow, like yellow cones on or whatever, like yellow plastic, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, this is also when Dr. Dre came out with his Beats by Dre line. His purpose was to try to make the headphones sound like monitors, so you could hear the music how it was intended. Now, all of this, I bring all of this up specifically because in the studio, Cardi B and the producers would have been in there with studio monitors and been able to hear the things that we hear. There's no way you hear that and walk out and say that's done. It's impossible. Because if I can hear that listening on my Apple AirPods or in my car stereos, like these things that are like standing out to me as unfinished imperfections, I know that that's what it sounded like in the studio and worse and did. So that is my struggle too. I'm like, how did y'all leave? Like, how did y'all finish and be like, this is it? Because I can't imagine what that beat sounds like on some like studio monitors. It had to sound like it was missing all kinds of stuff.
My issue with the beat is not even that like that it's bad. It sounds over polished. It sounds like, you know, if you go on the internet, you know, and I mean, I'm sure you've seen there's tons of channels, right? There's even one that I actually like. This dude, he breaks down how a record, like the history behind how a record is made. And then he goes in Ableton and he makes the beat over again, right? It's called Digging the Greats. You might have heard it. It's just a white dude. He's dope. If you ever get a chance, check him out for folks that haven't. But when he makes the beat over again, he's making a Dilla beat. It's not going to sound the way it sounded when Dilla made it, right? Like he's going to, in some cases, just even the sampling rates of, you know, the Ableton software as opposed to, you know, the very famous MPC 2000 that, you know, Dilla used is going to make even the sample by itself sound different. Then when it comes to, you know, he might have chopped and filtered a bass line and that's going to sound a certain way. And, you know, whereas the guy from Digging the Greats might just take, you know, a bass tone that lives in the software and he's going to replay it in the software. So it's going to sound a little different. And, you know, that's fine. It's for fun. But this beat sounds like that, like somebody remaking Imaginary Players for fun, but then they put it out as a single.
There's no reverb on the drums. Them shits don't even like there's not, it felt like, yes, you know what? I don't even add to that. Everything you said is right. I listened to it and it's just like, this sounds like it's a draft. It's like, hey, here's where I'm thinking about going with this. Once we decide we're going somewhere, I'm gonna produce this up. And they stopped and didn't do it.
And I also feel like the flow sounds unnatural over the production. You know, it's almost like they wrote really hot bars for her and they just kind of incorporated the flow that Jay had on the song, but didn't think about, like, Jay, we talked about this a lot on the Volume 1 episode, but, you know, I talked about how Jay, like, he has almost like a dickish asshole personality that, like, he conveys so well on records like this, right? Where it's like, he sits behind the beat, he just knows everything he's saying is tight and that he has way more money than you and his life is way better than yours. And it's very convincing. He's very, very good at that, you know, that persona. Whoever wrote this, I mean, you know, Cardi, her flow is a bit labored, and part of that is just, you know, just dialect and, you know, the way she speaks. But also she sits up before the beat. She hits before the beat. Her bars drop before the beat. Jay's drop after the beat. And when you have a beat that the sample is so lazy and smooth and mellow, you almost need that type of flow to make it sound good over the beat. And it almost felt like they didn't focus on that. I feel like, you know, to my low light, like my biggest low light is that they made this a single, because there was ways that they could have done this where it would have worked, right? Like they could have had her go on Flex and ask for the Imaginary Players beat. It could have been them just playing it and her just acting it out that she's rapping the words. And they could have made this a freestyle, and it would have been a dope freestyle, right? It would have just been, oh yeah, she's got some bars, she's just rapping it over somebody else's beat, and then they put it out, and it's like, yo, Cardi really got bars. She went to the radio station and she rapped the way people rap, and this would have worked. But instead, like, they do this, Hype Williams $5 million budget music video, and they put this out as a single, and so now we have to listen to this with the ears of it being the second single from a major label release, and similar to what I said about Andre, you may or may not have agreed with me, but yo, put this shit on SoundCloud, yo. Like, this doesn't sound like something that the world needed as a single, personally.
Definitely agree that this could have been the start of an amazing mixtape.
Mm-hmm.
She could have just rapped over the beat. In fact, hell, she could have taken a bunch of iconic New York records.
Right.
And let me be clear, I'm not even sure this is an iconic New York record, but all the conversation around it would have you think it is. That's why I opened up with that. Like, I think this got turned into very precious, reverential record. Like, yes, all the heads love this song.
Right.
We all do. Wasn't a single.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the song where he said, where he answered the question of what's the difference between a 4.0 and a 4.6.
Yeah.
Our 30 to 40 grand cocksucker beat it, right? We were all running around saying that, right?
Yep.
Like, it was that record that was spit with so much, as you said, like, he's a dickhead.
Yeah.
But he's so nonchalant. It's so like, I am so much better at this than everybody else.
Yeah.
In the way that I deliver it. Like, this is, when they give Grammys for like performance, like, he was never going to win one, but this deserves performance. Like, this is a performance Grammy just for how well he delivered it. Yeah. And her version is not that. Her version is very chalant. Her version,
the most chalant I've ever heard on this type of beat.
Her version cares. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, it's like she's delivering it with Cardi energy, but this is not a beat that needs that energy. Like, it doesn't, the energy is in how much you don't care. Yeah. I'm telling you this because I have time, not because I need you to know. I had a free 3 minutes. So let me just remind you how much better at this I am than you all.
Right. And Jay is the best at that. Right. So it's like that's why this is a layup for him. And that's why for his fan base, this is perfect. And that's why, when, moving to general thoughts, right? Like, my biggest general thought is, who is this for? Like,
that's a good question.
Who did we create this for? Because, I think one thing that I could think about if I'm her marketing team, I'm her A&R, maybe we want to repatriate Cardi. Right? Like, we've talked a lot. I mean, I don't know if you have as much, but I've seen, like, in hip hop discourse, right? A lot of us hip hop nerds have been talking about how, like, we miss regional music. Everybody sounds like everybody, right? And Cardi has almost lived, her bread and butter has been these Memphis or New Orleans bouncing type of songs, right? Like, she's made these big Memphis sounding records and, or sampling records like the Chicken Head joint, and they ring off in the club and they go crazy, but she's from New York, and so maybe one of the things that this attempts to do is to take a stab at making her, reminding people that this is a New York artist. And, she does, whether we accept it or not, take herself seriously or want to be taken seriously in terms of as a rapper. So maybe this puts her back in the rapper conversation. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, why did we even do this? Why did we do this at all?
I would give some credence to that if the first single didn't use the Trigger Man beat. If it wasn't straight Third Coast, right? Like, if this was the second song in a row that had some kind of New York feel to it, and, like, even being real about that, I don't even know if I think Imaginary Players would think New York City. Like, it just dope record. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's New York because Jay did it.
I think all of Jay's catalog has gotten to a place where it's just like, this is New York. Like, the New York people will live and die on that hill. The most famous iteration of somebody rapping Imaginary Players, right, is her name escapes me, but the lady who passed away with the doobie rap, who's standing in the middle of New York rapping. She got a speaker on her and she's rapping every single bar, right? That's New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it has that New York energy. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I'm just saying that without having a conversation about it being a New York record, I don't think that my first thought would be, or like, is Cameron's Old Boy a New York record? Like, it is because Cameron made it, but if somebody else got on that, would I be like,
yeah. I get what you're saying. She could have done Where I'm From, right? It would have had more energy, right? It would have been a New York record, and it would have had more energy,
I'm
and it
glad
probably
you
would have
said
worked.
that. Because that's actually what I thought. I was like, if you got to make a record, like you got to make a announce yourself record, take that joint, because it lends itself. Jay was very nonchalant on that record too. He was behind the beat a little bit in the way that he's rapping, like he was rapping with swag and all that. But she could have done her thing on that record because the beat hit so hard, right?
Exactly.
Like even Puff used that record and it was hitting hard on it. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
Incarcerate Puff. But
yo, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say the opposite of free somebody before. That's hilarious. Incarcerate Puff. Get him out of here.
It's funny. I got that from, you remember when they used to do those free Tony Yayo shirts a long time ago? I remember somebody made an Incarcerate Yayo shirt, and I saw that in New York, and I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Hilarious.
So ever since then, I'm like, put them niggas in jail. But so you say, who's this record for? I think that's a good question, because on Instagram, I posted something. I was like, yo, what does New York think of this? Because I think this is a record for New York, as you said. I do believe that this was made for New York airwaves. It's for Flex to drop a bomb on it or whatever. Like it's for New York. Like I always felt like the radio sounds different in New York City than it does everywhere else. I don't know why that is.
I feel you.
But every time I've been in New York and I listen, it just sounds bigger and more important while you're staring at skyscrapers. It sounds like, I remember when French Montana came out, like, what's that first record that he had? Whatever
Baller,
it was.
Wanna Be a Baller.
I heard that for the first time in New York.
Okay.
And I was like, this is the biggest record I've ever heard in my entire life. Specifically because I was driving down to FDR when I heard it, right? And it was just like, it felt different. So I feel like this is kind of that thing, which is fine. I'm with you on that. Like if the point is we're paying homage to New York City, to old New York, to Brooklyn by doing this, great. I just wish she sounded better doing it. The homage should have been better, especially because we have several instances of proof where Cardi can spit. Now, who cares who wrote it? But Cardi delivering the verses, like when I think of like that No Limit, G-Eazy No Limit, like Cardi goes off on that record. Her flow was 100% in the pocket. Okay, so you know what? You can do it. Why would this be the one? Especially because such a big fucking deal was made about this record.
That's fact.
Before it came out, all I kept hearing was Jay-Z samples and all this stuff. Like you started a whole argument about whether or not Jay-Z should be the one to clear the sample versus Renee Angela for whoever owns the publishing on the actual record.
Yeah.
Right. And people are like, well, Jay signed off on the sample. Did Jay ever say he did? I don't know. But let's just say he's the one that, because she she used his entire flow. I'm imagining there's something he had to do here.
She did a whole IG live talking about clearing the sample and how, her manager sent a message to Jay-Z to get it sampled. And he sent a message back at 4:44 that said that she could, so yes, Jay-Z signed off on it.
Jesus Cristo. Wow. Okay. Either way, that's great. I'm glad Jay signed off on it.
Right.
Does Jay not, like, how often does Jay say no? Like, I'd be curious, like, how often does Jay say no? But look, I'm glad assuming she got the stamp from Jay. That's great. I've seen all this conversation about this being another battle in the Nicki Minaj and all these, like, there's all this conversation happening around it.
I think that's the only thing that makes the Jay-Z of it all interesting. Because Jay is a strategic and it seems like backhandedly petty type of person enough that he might do something like this, which is, right, for folks that are not clued in, right? Nicki Minaj has been having a one-sided Twitter battle with Jay-Z for the last couple months or whatever, right? She's been spouting off all these like wild, allegations and saying all this stuff about Jay-Z and, his business partner on Twitter, and Jay-Z hasn't said anything back. Then suddenly Jay-Z clears this for Cardi, right? And it's, Cardi kind of taking shots at a boogie man, a boogie woman, someone who's hating on her and trying to do these things that she's done. Now, I feel like the Jay-Z of it all is interesting, but it's only interesting if it does what I think it could do, which is send Nicki into a fury, filled coke rant where she goes crazy about Cardi again or Jay again, but it hasn't happened yet. So
if she has one iota of sense, what she needs to do, because Nicki is a far better rapper than Cardi B, is take the original fucking beat. It's New York City. You ain't selling it. Just go on and just release the shit for free.
Go on flex. Go on flex.
Do the record.
And rap on the shit.
Remake the record and do it the right way. Take the original beat and then go ahead and go grab Where I'm From and go grab the records. Like if Nicki's gonna be like, I mean, we can do this all day. Facts. She's a better rapper, like just pure and simple.
Yeah.
She might be bonkers, and I do think I don't care for Nicki much anymore at all. Yeah. But as a rapper, like pure like rapidy rap stuff, she's rapping Cardi under the table.
Yeah.
She would make a version of this that I feel would pretty much make this version irrelevant, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I feel like there's better places for this. You know, as I've said, I think the way I would have tried to roll it out if it was my artist was kind of like a Funk Master Flex type of situation where she goes on the radio and she raps it. I think it also could have been like just, I mean, mix it better and perform it better. But like it could have been an interesting like kind of cover song that's like an album cut, you know, just to show who she's influenced by. Like another example of that is Love's Gonna Get You was redone right by Snoop Dogg on one of those No Limit albums that nobody listens to, you know, because he's KRS-One's biggest fan. He loves KRS-One, so he kind of did the same with the Slick Rick record, right? Like on Doggy Style, right? So it's like
nobody would say that wasn't amazing.
Oh,
it
was great.
It was fucking amazing.
It was great. But I think it also nodded to like, oh, these are my influences. This is what I like, you know, and it was an album cut. Like, you know, I mean, later they did actually put it out as a single, but I feel like she could have done something like that where she buried it in the album and we just said, oh yeah, she has these hip hop influences. That's dope. But putting this out as a single, I think is not what's up. The one thing that I will say about it though is if the point of this was to get people talking, we're talking. So, you know, maybe she knows something that we don't. Maybe the marketing folks, they did their thing.
I mean, I do think that it was rolled out the right way for a record that didn't deserve a rollout.
Yeah.
So it got people talking beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
The social medias were all deciding what this record was going to be and who it was for and why it existed. And Jay-Z and Desiree Perez and everybody's name was tossed around in here before anybody even heard the record. Yeah. So by the time it came out, like the Cardi fans were probably like, yo, and then everybody else was like, all right, whatever. But it had enough discussion. Like, how many is there, if you punch in Cardi B in Spotify, like, do we know how many listens this song has?
I don't, but I pulled down the stats from All Hip Hop, right? So this record debuted at 147 on the Spotify US charts and 56 on the Apple Music charts, which are very, very low for a Cardi record. However, it says the music video, on the other hand, has racked up 2.5 million views on YouTube since the day it was released. So I think, you know,
it's 2.8 right now.
There it is. So that
seems low, though. It says right now #1 on music trending chart.
That's what I'm saying. I think the video is getting legs and wings, and I think if it's a rollout, right? If it's a rollout for something fashion related, then they did a good job. There was nothing, and I didn't see anything branded in it, so I don't know if that's the case. But I do know that Cardi does try to move around in that fashion world, and that's dope. On the other hand, though, Jay-Z, it says, My Lifetime Volume 1 has entered the iTunes hip hop charts for the first time ever, and Spotify announced that the song Imaginary Playerz saw a 305% increase in streams from August 15th to August 17th.
Yeah, I believe that. I definitely listened to it several times.
Yeah.
Not 305% more than
than you usually do.
Though actually, probably. I mean, listening to it one time was 100% more than I have in the past, 20 years, if I'm being honest. Like it's a song that I remember more fondly. I remember fondly enough where I don't have to listen to it. It occupies space.
Yeah, I love those Volume 1 records, like that and Lucky Me and some of those more like album cut type joints. I still play them a lot just because.
Really, Lucky Me, huh?
I loved Lucky Me personally.
I hated Lucky Me.
We talked about that, I think, right?
Yeah, we did. I remember having a conversation about Lucky Me. I don't know why exactly, because I wasn't on the Volume 1 pod episode with y'all.
Yeah,
but it must have come up in something else.
Do you hate the victim nature, or do you hate the record itself?
I hate the beat.
Okay.
The beat, because
it's that Stevie J production, right?
It is that Stevie J production. Which was interesting because that whole album was like DJ Premier and then the Hitmen, and like it's like Premier and Ski and then Token Pone.
Yeah, it's
poke
all
and
over the
tone. You know what I'm
place.
saying?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
the hitman, and it's interesting because even Imaginary Players was a hitman. Like he wasn't one of the like more popular ones,
Right.
but he is one of the hitmen made that record.
Yeah.
And it just shows you like they were very versatile, right? Like they could make
Sure.
the Stevie J could make Lucky Me, and
And
he
more
also
money,
made
more problems.
like he did Notorious Thugs, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
So anyway, point
Mhm.
is, that Volume 1 is an interesting record just because it's like amazing record, trash record, amazing record,
Yeah, that's
trash
facts.
record. The great records are great. Like I said,
Mhm.
the Where I'm From and the intro. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Streets
A
is
million and one
watching,
questions.
so either way.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot on the episode that we did on that album, and I agree with you. But I feel like the highs are among the highest highs of Jay's career, but the lows are
Huh.
also among the lowest lows of Jay's. They might be the lowest lows. And we were talking on the episode about why
That's a
people
fun
don't
thought
remember,
experiment.
yeah, why people don't album fondly. And I was saying that Jay has albums that are worse than this, but he doesn't have records that elicit such an emotional response as the bad records do on Volume 1. Like the way I hate Girls Like, I hate that Girls Like song. There's not many songs I hate more than I Know What Girls Like.
Well, let me ask you a question. So 97, when this album comes out,
Mhm.
I'm 18.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm not even a Jay fan like I am now at this point. Like my best friend from high school is the one who put me on a Jay-Z in our AP calculus class,
Okay.
and I refused to listen. I just did not care. And
Mhm.
my oldest sister was also, she's older than me. She's like 5 years older than me. So she was also like, I was in Atlanta visiting her one time, and she's just like, yo, you got to get on this Jay. Like, you just don't understand. Like, you got to get on this Jay. And I was like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Right.
So, but when I finally got to listening to Reasonable Doubt, I understood what people meant. Like, I'm not going to say immediately, like, it took me a really long time to love Politics as Usual, which is wild because that record is amazing. But it took me a long time to get there. Can I Live was the record that really like cemented, like, oh, this dude is that dude. But in 98 or 97, the reason why I think most of us hated Volume 1 is because it wasn't Reasonable Doubt 2. Like it sounded like Jay was trying to hit the radio.
Okay.
Like it sound like
for sure. And
Sunshine.
he says he was, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounded so bad. And
Mm.
then the damn Always Be My Sunshine video was so bad.
It was so bad.
It felt tainted the rest of the album.
Yeah.
So the bad song sounded especially bad to the point where even at that time, I vividly remember that despite the great songs on the album, people only focused on the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Now that I think that changed over time, but
yeah. But how
old were you when you came
as
out?
a listener, right? Yeah, I was in middle school, right? So like, but I very distinctly remember 97. I told this story on the podcast episode, but my aunt, who essentially taught me how to DJ, right? She had connects at the radio station, so she would get albums and stuff before they came out. And I remember at the time, this 97, so what, like Pun is out, you know what I mean? Still Not a Playerz all over the radio, stuff like that. And I remember she came over our house and, she knew I was super into music. So she comes over and she's like, yo, I got that new Jay-Z. Like I got an advanced copy of that Jay-Z. And I'll never forget telling her like, nobody cares about Jay-Z. And then I'm living in Cali at the time. And it was true, right? Like I knew
that's not an inaccurate statement at that time.
I knew Ain't No Nigga, right? Because it was on Funkmaster Flex and stuff like that. But I wasn't checking for it. Like, he wasn't cool. He wasn't what we were listening to in school in LA at the time. So, like, she said that, and I was like, nobody cares about Jay-Z. But then, 98, fucking Hard Knock Life comes out, right? And that's all you hear everywhere, including LA. Like, every single car that drove up, the drug dealers, the not drug dealers, was bumping Volume 2 when Volume 2 came out. So I wasn't up on it yet, So when I did hear the songs that I heard, I did not hate Sunshine as much as everybody else did. But again, I didn't know. I wasn't aware. So I just, I saw it. It looked like some jiggy, what New York shit looked like to me at the time, right? Which is, I'm seeing Mace and Puffy and all these niggas dancing around in shiny shit, and then I see Jay-Z and his friends and they're dancing around in shiny shit. I'm like, oh, that's what New York looks like. All right, cool. And I thought nothing else of it, right? Because I didn't have anybody to tell me, yo, there's this album called Reasonable Doubt that is one of the holy grails of hip hop. I didn't know this until later.
Well, Right. And just to be clear, I think it kind of retroactively became holy grail of hip hop. I don't think that everybody was saying that at first. Like it had to travel. Like it definitely, like I was in the South, right? So the people that were telling me that Jay-Z was this great, or Reasonable Doubt was this great album, I don't know that that was the prevailing notion across the board. And I had a couple of friends who were very heavy, even in Alabama and even in Atlanta, who were very heavy New York people.
Yeah.
They were still heavy Wu. They were still, Biggie all day.
Yeah.
Jay wasn't a layup back then. He wasn't a slam dunk. I think Volume 2 changed everything, and it retroactively turned everybody into, Reasonable Doubt heads. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, like I'm one of those people who is a Reasonable Doubt or Illmatic forever. I've been since I started having that conversation in a legit way. I've been more Reasonable Doubt than Illmatic. Now that might have changed more recently.
Yeah, I'm on that boat too, so I agree with that. But my cousin, who's passed on, who taught me how to DJ's youngest brother, he touted himself as the first person on the West Coast who got Reasonable Doubt and was trying to put everybody on a Reasonable Doubt. Nobody cared about it, my aunt included. A Reasonable Doubt. The first time he heard it, he knew it was amazing, and he tried to tell everybody in California, and nobody in California cared. I don't know if this is true, but he's told this story a million times, and he was very, very proud of it. So similar to what you're saying, Reasonable Doubt did not catch on where we lived like that. Like nobody was really talking about him like that. And it really wasn't until, there were some singles that kind of led up to Hard Knock Life. But when Hard Knock Life came out, that was the layup that everybody, he became this person that everybody cared about.
Dude, in 98, I saw Jay-Z perform in the basement of DC Live. There was no security, but I mean, it was that close. Like when
Leather Coat Jay-Z.
He was doing club spots at that point for one of the biggest records on the radio. Like I remember vividly Jay-Z being down. Even fucking Emil was there. Like Emil was on stage and Bleak was there. You know what I'm saying? It was like, because what was
Emil was around back then?
So what?
Emil was around back then?
What was that record?
Oh, she was out. This was 99 maybe then?
So
or
that
2000?
was maybe it was 99, and because I remember.
Yeah, I love For the Fam is the name of that song.
For the Fam. Oh
I
my
love
God,
that beat. That's one of my favorite beats. I love that beat. Yeah. Probably like January 2000.
So that song came out in, that says 2000. So that's crazy
2000.
Because look, there's no way that in 2000 Jay-Z was performing in basements.
Yeah, unless it was something special where he just happened to be doing
DC
it in a
Live basement was there's no way. Like it's too so maybe she wasn't performing, but she was there.
Okay.
Like I'm not saying they performed that song because I remember Hard Knock Life. Like because a fight broke out.
Okay.
And Jay-Z was laughing at people like, yo, them Bama's lunching. Like he was trying,
That's funny.
Yeah, it was one of them things. But anyway.
The equivalent of Justin Timberlake beating his feet.
Yeah, effectively. Except Jay-Z was cool enough to do that, and but yeah. So I mean, where do we? Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? I think my final thoughts here are: I understand why Cardi B was so afraid to put this album out. If this is single worthy material, Outside was okay. It didn't resonate the way some of her big singles in the past, like Bodak Yellow, had, but it did okay. But if this is a second single from the album, unless there's a monster third single that she's sitting on, I'm afraid of what's going to be on this album. I don't think that it's going to be a worthy follow-up to Invasion of Privacy. I'm just being honest. I don't know. What are your general thoughts? Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm probably in that same ballpark. I mean, it's possible that for the New York City of it all, they were just like, yo, let's go with this as the second single because it's New York and we doing this J and all that, like the conversation alone seemed like maybe it was worth it, though it also petered out already. Like the conversation, the song wasn't good enough to sustain a long convo. So
and why do we rent the private jet and all the very expensive dresses if this is just something that we just wanted to do real quick? She should have done this as like an Instagram live where she threw the Imaginary Playerz beat on and she rapped some shit over it. We would be going crazy about that right now if it was just a random IG live that was circulating of her just rapping bars over Imaginary Playerz. That would have been crazy. But this huge rollout is scary to me.
Yeah. And this less than 3 million views, even for the video, seems very low to me.
Really? I don't know so much about videos and views like that.
Dude, man, I feel like Not Like Us. Now, granted, it's different.
Yeah, that's different.
It's different, but I mean, I think we did 3 million views before the first day was out.
Yeah.
You know, probably in under 12 hours. I don't want to
Yeah.
overstate,
Yeah.
but you know, like it's big artists who drop videos typically get a big response, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that she's a three. It's been 3, almost 4 days since that song, since that 3 days since it came out, whatever.
Yeah.
For an artist like Cardi, I would assume that who people seem to genuinely love,
Yes.
who I'm assuming that people view as like one of the artists to pay attention to. It just feels like there'd be more, but I could be wrong on that, so I can concede that.
I mean, you
But
might be right.
I don't know where the album goes. I'll say this. Singles are typically intended to build anticipation for albums. I can't say that this has made me want to listen to it anymore.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I do not know if there's a specific single that Cardi would release that would make me say, I need to be there at 12:01 a.m. on Friday to listen to that Cardi B record. So
yeah,
maybe
fair.
I'm just not the audience anyway.
I think a lot of what made the magic of what made the first joint stick, in addition to just, you know, kind of great pop writing, I mean, like pop rap writing, they had like eating halal, driving a lamb. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a crazy bar, but for like a pop record, that's crazy. You know, I like it like that sample, you know, chicken heads as a sample. Like, you know, the records really worked, and they worked outside. And so maybe, you know, that's another thing that maybe scares me a little bit, because outside worked a little bit outside, but it didn't work a lot. And then the second single is not for outside at all. So I'm wondering what we're gonna have, you know, on the album here. Bless you.
Yeah, I'm looking at the track list for the Invasion of Privacy. And there were some records on. There were records on this joint.
Yeah.
There were records on it.
Yeah.
This ain't the two outside. You know what? Outside seems like it would have worked a couple years ago.
Yeah. I think timing is everything. I think that if she had put the exact same single out right after we came out of COVID, it would have been rung off, right? Everybody would have been so happy to be
100%.
outside that they would have gone. But I don't know. This sounds again just like, you know, not to say that they don't have a current scene, but like I feel like the Triggerman, you know, New Orleans bounce sound had a moment, like a big mainstream moment, right? Where Drake did his record on it, and then everybody had their New Orleans bounce record. And that's not the current moment. So I think she also wasn't able to capitalize off of that big, you know, New Orleans bounce moment either with the record.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm looking at her discography now. Now, granted, this comes from the world's most accurate website, Wikipedia.
Right.
But Up was the last song of hers that really, well, according to this, Outside hit number 2 on the R&B charts.
Okay.
But I'll say this: I haven't been outside anywhere where they played it, because I hadn't heard this record until the other day when somebody told me that Imaginary Players was the second single. I was like, there was one before this, and But this I'm telling you, bro, when I look at some of these songs that she's been on, it just really annoys me how bad she is rapping on this song. Like even Up. So Up was the last number 1 record that she had, like solo record. That joint was amazing.
It went up.
Like, I love that record.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I think it works better for her. But again, right, like I don't think that this beat is a good choice for her. I just don't even understand like what this is for. So yeah.
Well, I think hopefully the album is dope.
Hopefully the album is dope. My final thoughts are beautiful gowns.
Beautiful gowns.
Beautiful gowns.
I think that's accurate. Actually, mine are, and I'm gonna go ahead and clear the record here. On Instagram at like 8:20 some in the morning, I was like, this is the literal difference between a 4.0 and a 4.6. This sounds like the difference between a 4.0 and a 4.6.
Definitely.
Later on in the day, people hit me up, was like, yo, B-Dot said this same thing.
I think I saw that, yeah.
And somebody was like, I don't know if you said it first or just brilliant minds. And I was like, it's probably a brilliant mind situation. If you know the record and you know the line, blah, blah, blah. Right. But I'm like, what you're not going to do is tell me that I picked that off from that dude, because I didn't even know I followed him. So I didn't even know I followed him on Instagram, but not on Twitter or whatever. Anyway, he posted his joint. That was at like 12:30.
And then people start reposting it?
Yeah, people start reposting it. So I'm like,
Bro.
mine was like 8 something in the morning. So just to be clear, I did not copy off that dude. It just seemed like the easy statement to make when you're comparing two things. And Jay-Z provided the most clear comparison for you ever.
It was so good. Yeah. I mean, back to that record. That was so good that middle school Yinka, or I guess by the time I heard him, I was probably in 9th grade, I had no idea what a Range Rover was, what a 4.0 was, what a 4.6 was, but completely understood the sentiment of niggas being poorer than him.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So I'm with you.
All right, well, that'll do it for our episode. Just chopping it up on Cardi. Let us know in the comments, if you like our more kind of timely, topical subjects, and we'll try to get more of them out there if you do. Peace.
Peace.